Now I'm saying this is a provoking question. It is in line with a thought process of an individual. So it may look similar to other questions, but it is not similar. It is not similar. It wants you to apply your mind. So the question is that our junior counterparts, or the junior counterparts in the built-in environment, are you guys ready to up the level of intellectual property? Intellectual property, zooming into intellectual property, are you ready to have more credentials in the space and finish more projects, demonstrate more projects that can be used in the global space, in other countries, as simple, complicated projects like Dubai projects? Are you ready to take South Africa to the space whereby people have the wow, or they are fascinated about how we have changed the game, coming with new ways of building bridges, coming with new ways of building roads? Are you guys ready to do that? And if you are ready, what sort of thought processes, what sort of methods have you been thinking, and how are you going to implement it? And how are you going to make sure that you revive the image of this country? Like the young ladies have been saying that the guys are speaking about 30 years experience in the industry, but doing it wrong. But how can you change the industry and it looks fascinating? It draws attention. It also draws investments from other countries.
So Nancy, you're gonna go first. Are you ready to change the game? As junior professionals in the industry, are you guys ready to change the image of this industry to match our counterparts in other worlds? And how are you planning to do it? Just elaborate on that, please. Thanks.
Okay, wow. A very good question and a very deep question. Okay, so I think Marcus touched on the whole idea of intellectual property and innovation. I think it is something very difficult, especially as a junior, because like Nothando said, there's a whole lot of experience and people are very set in their way of doing things that you must kind of move against. From my perspective, I think my aim or my future goal is to make construction, I think, a slightly more accessible industry to the average person. I think a lot of what working in the commercial project space, it's very either you've got the millions, or it's impossible to kind of build and realize your dream. So I think my approach, especially in my business that I started recently, has been to offer building and construction solutions that are cost effective. Yes, definitely there's a right way to do things. There's some things you absolutely cannot compromise on, but cost effective and innovative, and I think as well an area that has not been tapped into a lot in the industry has been kind of reusing materials. I think, yes, people are kind of moving towards okay, cool, let's recycle. But beyond recycling, I mean, there's the whole idea of revamping, refurbishing, taking something that came out of a different space and utilizing it in a different way in another space. And I think I spend a lot of time watching construction shows and how they build in other countries, and that's very much what they tend towards. It's kind of, okay, cool, how do we refurbish the thing? How do we revive the item so that it has a new life and a new purpose in a different space? And yes, that's very much how I feel like I will innovate and add my own intellectual or kind of create my own way of constructing. Yeah.
Thanks, Nancy. That's very good. Nothando, we're gonna get on to you now. As a construction professional, how are you going to up the game? How are you going to raise the bar in terms of the construction industry in this country? And how are you going to make it interesting for people that are coming behind you, the guys that are currently in the schools? How are you gonna do this as a junior professional?
Thanks, Tammy. I think in recent years the construction industry has actually taken a very good turn. If you look at the trend coming into maybe the 2000s, a woman my age would not want to be in construction because it was associated with dirt, with mortar and bricks and all of that. So I think with people like myself coming into the industry, I mean, we've already started moving towards green buildings, and that's already a step in the right direction towards new ideas as to how we construct whatever structures we are constructing. I mean, green buildings allows us to save energy, and there's a whole list of advantages that come with it. Like Nancy has touched on recycling, I think the industry really needs to move towards recycling, reusing. If you look at your construction costs, a lot of it goes into wastage. And that's because we probably have not tapped into how much we can reuse and how much we can recycle. I mean, there's concrete on site. If you break it, we need to look at how we can separate particles of that concrete. Maybe we can reuse the cement. Who knows? Those are technologies we need to tap into. And I mean, as young professionals, we still have the will to go the extra mile. We still have the time as well to go the extra mile. Like I've been saying, research and development is very important for the industry. And as long as we as young professionals shy away from it, we can never get the industry where it's supposed to be. So more research into it. Green buildings, let's look at how we can improve on what we currently have as a country. I think we're just at the tip of it. I mean, other countries are doing bigger things. So yes, I believe the question was intellectual property. I think we can use intellectual property through research to improve the industry.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Siseko, you are in the public sector, so a lot sits on you. I mean, how you guys specify the jobs that you get out there is very important. How are you gonna use your position as a built environment professional in the public sector to up the game, to raise the bar, to make sure the industry is the South African industry is on the same level as our international counterparts, and to make it interesting for a generation that comes behind you? How are you going to use your position to do that?
From the public sector's point of view, Mr. Mtetwa, it's quite a challenging one, because I thought we were going to focus more on private. But yes, as Nothando has mentioned when the question came in, what came to my mind is the latest building method and the green building, obviously. But I don't want to go much into that because they've already covered all the points. Now, we are seeing the buildings in South Africa improve. We're seeing, for an example, structural steel facades. We're seeing like extensive curtain walling, timber cladding, and all those things. So there is an improvement in our construction in terms of buildings. But in government sector, it's a bit of a challenging one, Mr. Mtetwa, because when we talk about green buildings and all, those are good in operating expenditure. They come handy when it comes to that. But we're mostly focusing on capital expenditure in government sector, of which is mostly the challenge that we need to look at in future. but obviously there are policies that we have to look after. So the green building itself, it's a very great tool in terms of what Mr. has asked. I want to focus more on private than public, if you can allow me, so
that's fine.
I think Nothando has covered all the points. We just need to improve the building methods that we are adopting. We're seeing South African houses being advertised globally, like houses that are designed and built in South Africa and other African countries. They are advertised globally. It means that we are getting there as a country. We are not yet there, but we are getting there. And I've actually read an article not long ago about the green building, that South Africa is one of the leading countries in terms of the green building. We are using solar geysers, we've got garden rooftops, we have glass cladding, we are using recycled materials. We are not yet there, but we're getting there. So I hope that answers the question.
No, that's fine. Thanks, Siseko. But you must know that as a public servant, or as a hired professional in the public sector, you guys set the bar, because you obviously specify the jobs. You say what needs to go on a, so it starts with you guys. The private sector actually follows your lead.
Yes.
So it starts. Yeah, it definitely starts with you.